Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Tuesday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How you doing today on this Tuesday?
I'm great. Yeah, we had some really good football over the weekend, a lot of exciting things, and some breaking news here the last couple of days. So it'll be fun to talk about.
Yeah, no, we got a lot of breaking news to get into. A lot of wide receivers on the move. We got a lot to break down. But let's jump into last night's game, which is a big part because this could have determined what happened earlier today. So last night between the Bills and the Jets, it was more so refs versus the Bills and the Jets. That's what it seemed like. With 26 total penalties, with 22 actually being in the field of play this time. But Aaron Rodgers, this might have been his best game, and this was the first game without Robert Saleh as the head coach of the Jets. It was Todd Downing, the play caller, and Jeff Ulbrich, the interim head coach, and they actually looked pretty good. First quarter, moving down the field, while the Bills did actually come out on top 23-20. Missed kicks all around, penalties all day, unfortunate roughing the passer calls that were not roughing the passer calls. This was probably the best game that we could have had on Monday night, but I want to know what your takeaways were from Monday night's game between the Bills and the Jets.
Well, I enjoyed the game. I thought it was an exciting game despite all the penalties and mistakes. My God, the kickers, each missing 2 field goals. I think the wind was blowing up there. You couldn't tell by the on the top of the goalpost, they have those flags, right, that blow. And they didn't seem to be blowing that much, but the kicks were getting blown around after the kicker kicked it. And I think that had something to do with the missing because almost all those field goals were very close. A couple of them hit the goalpost, but they didn't make it through. So that was interesting. I mean, if the Jets had gotten those 2 field goals in the second half, might have been a different outcome. But the Bills... tough team, man. I thought they played very well. And my takeaway from the game on the Bills side, the Bills are the real deal, I think, and even without an elite receiver. And they now have the depth at running back with the performance of Ray Davis. I think that's a big thing. And now they've added, as we're going to talk about later, Amari Cooper. And I think that goes a long way to establishing them as an easy winner in the AFC East and potentially a Super Bowl candidate. I think the game had everything. You know, it had a Hail Mary completion by Rodgers. Every once in a while he throws one of those and it's complete. This one time to who's the
Alan Lazard,
who has been dropping passes all around, but he managed to catch a Hail Mary pass. I thought Allen's quarterback play was brilliant. The missed field goals, as I talked about, a ton of penalties, and an incredible interception there by, was it Rapp? Was he the one that picked off the pit? I can't remember which guy picked off that pass, but... it was an excellent interception.
No, Teron Johnson.
Johnson, right. Johnson picked it off. That was a great interception, man. I'd say the Bills are in first place now, 4-2 in the AFC. They now have an 85% chance to win the AFC East. The Jets, on the other hand, now at 2-4, their chances of winning the AFC East have dropped to 45%. The AFC East is, I'd say, looking like one of the weakest divisions in football. I'd say the Bills won the game because of Allen's 3 TDs in the first half. He had no turnovers in the game. And Ray Davis, 152 total yards, was a playmaker with a 42-yard great catch that set up the Bills' second touchdown. I thought the defense played well. Only 1 score allowed in the second half to the Jets, and they pounded Rodgers. I'm sorry. The Jets' offensive line, for all they spent on it and tried to improve it, man, the Bills, they got to Rodgers several times. I think the rest felt sorry for him. The second big sack that they got against him, they called a personal foul on it, and even Rodgers said after the game that wasn't a personal foul. It never should have been called. I would say on the Jets side of the ball, my takeaway is creating turmoil is not a recipe for winning football. They fired Saleh, replaced him with Ulbrich, who is still calling the defenses. And Hackett, who was the offensive coordinator, was replaced by Todd Downing. calling the plays. And I think that upsets Aaron Rodgers. You saw him sitting on the sidelines there, sulking. He wasn't really looking at Downing. He was just sitting there. Downing was looking at the that little laptop tablet they have, the Microsoft Surface tablet that helps them kind of dissect the plays. And Rodgers wasn't paying any attention to that. I think he was just he seemed like a sour grapes guy over there sitting on the sideline. I'd say with this loss, the Jets season is close to coming off the rails, and they have a short week before they got to play against the Steelers, who are 4-2, and this is a primetime Sunday night game. I'd say they may get a lucky break, if the Steelers start Russell Wilson, but we'll talk about that later.
Absolutely. Well, I think this is the first thing. This is now even more so. If no one believed that this was the New York Rodgers, now you do. They just got his buddy Devante Adams. But here's the first thing I'll say. Congratulations, Rodgers. You look like a really good quarterback. He was throwing the ball very accurately, had a great pass to Allen Lazard late in the game. Beautiful precision, beautiful location on a back shoulder pass. I don't know how the hell he got it in there, but he did. It was a great completion. The running game, Breece Hall, the emergence of him was incredible. He had over 100 total yards. He had 113 yards rushing and also contributed with 56 yards in the air as well, receiving yards. So I think right now the Jets' offense looks completely different. Now, I think one could make the argument that they've already taken away one issue. Nathaniel Hackett, as we've known back with Denver, he was a problem. Now they go over to the Jets, he was a problem. Now they got rid of a problem, which looks great. They were able to move the ball very effectively. There were a couple untimely penalties, like Braylon Allen had a rushing touchdown. Then number 78, who I'm forgetting, was that Morgan Moses, I believe. He had a holding call that was really a cheap holding call on that rushing touchdown. That negated it. What I don't want to hear is about missed kicks. I don't want to hear nothing about, Greg the Leg missed kicks. Well, yeah, Tyler Bass is also on a fiery red hot seat for also missing kicks. Guess what? They both missed 2 kicks. If they both were 100%, Jets still would have lost by 1. So I don't want to hear about missed kicks. I'm sorry. If anyone's going to complain about Greg Zuerlein, I'd be complaining about Tyler Bass as well. You both missed 2 kicks. Sucks to be you. But on the Bills side of this, Josh Allen looked okay. Not great. Not great. He had 127.9 passer rating. It was not bad at all. I thought he could have played better, but you know what? He didn't have to, because here's the shocking part, which was James Cook was out for this game. Shakir was not 100%. But they ran the ball at an insane clip. 149 yards rushing, 4.5 yards per an attempt, and a rushing touchdown. Ray Davis coming out of nowhere with 20 carries and 97 yards. Also, Ty Johnson also contributed 8.5 yards a carry. I mean, the run game stepped up immensely, which is Joe Brady's offense. Why did the Bills' offense look so great and run through a Jets defense, which actually looked pretty pedestrian through large parts of this game? Could it be that this is how the Bills dominate each team? We saw this early in the season. They're at their best when they could run the ball at an effective clip. What happened in the past couple weeks? They were not able to run the ball, especially in the Ravens game. Not able to run the ball at their pace. So they played to the other team's tempo, other team's pace. They played the other team's game. They didn't play their own game. When in this one, the Jets said, you know what? Let's have our safeties be the first ones to make an attempt to tackle Ray Davis or Ty Johnson. Linebackers were basically negated in this game. The offensive line that was actually a bit banged up. It's been a little banged up throughout the season. It did a tremendous job opening holes, keeping Josh Allen relatively comfortable. I think this is, if we're talking about a really good Bills team, this is what the good Bills team looks like. You cannot rely on Josh Allen throwing it 35, 40 times. But I think with this case, now you have Amari Cooper. It definitely helps out in the pass game. We're going to talk about that right after this topic. But I was incredibly surprised. No James Cook. Shakir's not 100%. And you come out against a top-tier defense and absolutely dominate, I think, in large parts of this game. I was impressed with the Bills. Their game plan worked with not their guys that they run with normally.
Their winning formula is being able to effectively run the ball. Because when they do that, then Allen is very effective, very accurate, passes for a high percentage, not a ton of yards. He had 215 yards last night, 2 TDs, but he hasn't thrown an interception yet this year. And he hasn't turned the ball over. Last year, he's a turnover machine, particularly in the red zone, and that hasn't happened this year. That's big. He's the leading MVP candidate now. He's a number 5 ranked quarterback in the league. So He's having his year here, and he's doing it with a depleted wide receiver core. Shakir, you mentioned
Not
hurt.
anymore though.
Is Shakir hurt? And the other guys out there, they're not big names, big name
Well,
players.
Keon Coleman's a rookie. Curtis Samuel got underused. MVS is gone.
Kincaid is a very good tight end.
Well, if you're talking about tight ends, yeah. No, Kincaid's great. Also, Dawson Knox.
But now with Amari Cooper, it could be help the Bills quite a bit. I'm impressed with the trade, and I'm kind of rooting for the Bills. Now the Patriots in a rebuild year here. The Bills are a team that I could root for. On the other side of the ball, the Jets, as I mentioned, the turmoil there. At the end of the game, Troy Aikman saying, this could be it. The Jets maybe headed for an unraveling here, falling apart. I think it's quite possible. The media really ripping them after last night's loss. Rodgers, as you said, had a very nice game, 23 of 35, almost 300 yards. He has not thrown for 300 yards in, I don't know.
I think it's 29 games.
A long, long time. He did have that one interception. That was a killer.
Well, I want to talk about that.
I think that was a turning point in the game.
Well, yeah, that sealed the game for the Bills. But a lot of Mike Williams, why did he fall down? I mean, it was underthrown. Yes, Rodgers was also explaining it and kind of blaming Mike Williams in the post-game conference. He underthrew. He said, he should be a little bit more off to the right. Well, if he's off to the right, that's still going into the hands of Johnson because you underthrew him. So even if he broke free to the right, how about you lead him? A lot of great quarterbacks. And Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if he's a great quarterback anymore. He can make great throws. But is he a great quarterback anymore? I'm going to go with big fat no. Because where would you rank him right now? I'd put Baker Mayfield over Aaron Rodgers right now. I'd put Baker Mayfield 100% over Aaron Rodgers.
You look at their record. They're 2-4. Their only wins against
Will
the Titans.
Levis and Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, right.
Think about that.
Will Levis at 1-4 and Jacoby Brissett at 1-5. Now, those are your only two wins. I mean, they weren't doing. They may have been at least 2-5 or 2-4 when they had last year when they had Zach Wilson playing.
No, like the offense is very similar from last year with Trevor Siemian and Zach Wilson. I mean, that's how bad this offense has been. But they have a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. And a healthy running back, and a better offensive line, and better weapons.
Yeah, their offense did look better last night.
No, it absolutely did.
It absolutely looked better.
They did motion. Rodgers was comfortable.
The
running
penalties
game
killed them. The penalties killed several drives.
Yeah,
you can't have that. You got to correct that problem.
Well, that's just undisciplined, and especially when you have an interim coach. How are you going to create that accountability platform? How are you going to create that coaching level? If the head coach that's been there for the past 3-4 years is no longer there, and you're the interim coach,
I think the
also
officials,
Belichick completely ripped Woody Johnson. Said that's what the Jets are, but he completely ripped the Jets. So any hope for Belichick becoming the head coach of the Jets next year? I guarantee you, after Woody Johnson heard that from Belichick, and
what did he say?
And Belichick's history, it was basically like that's what the Jets are. They jumped the gun, fire, and I mean, think about what the Jets have been in recent history. Can't hit on a quarterback. Offensive line's always a complete mess. They're hit or miss on every decision they make in large parts. Think about Sauce Gardner has already regressed. Defense is under. Think about the defense was the number one graded defense by Pro Football Focus last year. It's nowhere near the same. DJ Reed is getting penalized every single game. Sauce Gardner's getting cooked left and right. Linebackers are doing an okay job. Defensive line is supposed to be great. It's not doing that well. I mean, think about it. Safeties were hitting the running backs first, and that's like 7-8 yards up. Yeah. That's a problem. If the safeties are the ones hitting your running backs, that means you're getting no pressure, not filling any box. It's an issue.
They didn't put any pressure on Allen.
No, Allen was sitting there in the pocket looking pretty. That's all he had to do. 2 touchdowns. He still has no interceptions.
And he ran
3
for
total
a touchdown,
Yeah, he had 3 total touchdowns.
And he sealed the game at the end with the run where he went right and then turned around and went left, and everybody was going right. That was a really smart play on his part.
Yeah, so, I mean, Let's get into the wide receiver situation. So there was some breaking news today for wide receiver moves. Amari Cooper goes over to the Buffalo Bills for a 3rd-round pick and a 6th-round pick, I believe, while Devante Adams goes to the Jets for a conditional 3rd-round pick. He needs to be a starter, I believe, in an AFC Championship game or Super Bowl, and also make an All-Pro team. It could be 1st or 2nd, and that would move into his 2nd round pick. Both these teams, it seems like they need a receiver. They had Garrett Wilson, but it looks like Allen Lazard's the wide receiver one. Mike Williams is a massive issue. Rodgers has his lowest passer rating when targeting Mike Williams. Meanwhile, on the Bills side, they have real no top-tier receiver. They lost Stephon Diggs, lost their wide receiver 2 in Gabe Davis, and it looks like they needed somebody. Even Sean McDermott, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, even mentioned that the wide receiver, they need to step it up a little bit. Now you get Amari Cooper. The Browns are reeling. The Raiders look abysmal. They needed to make moves. They needed to get draft capital, which they did in this case. But I want to know, though, how big of an impact do you think these wide receivers can make on their respective teams?
It'll be interesting to see. I think Adams to the Jets, maybe it creates more turmoil. Who is the number one receiver, Wilson or Adams? Wilson's had 21 catches for 208 yards the past 2 weeks. He looked really good last night. He had 8 catches for 107 yards. Lazard had 6 catches for 114 yards. They both had a touchdown. So the wide receivers weren't the problem last night. So bringing Adams in here, who's recovering from a hamstring injury, just to me, it redoubles the Jets' commitment to both all-in to pursuit of a championship and their eagerness to satisfy any whim of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers wanted Devante Adams long ago. He's been hinting about it. They play golf together. He said, you got to come play for the Jets. And so this has been in the wind for a while. Why it took this long to get it done, I'm not sure, but now it's a desperation thing. They bring him in. He's 32 years old. He makes the Jets better. Whether he makes the ultimate difference is another question. He's going to replace Williams, who's been terrible for them. He's going to make $36,250,000 each of the next 2 years. He's graded number 23 wide out last year and 82nd this year, so he's fallen off a lot, but he's been hurt. Will he make enough of a difference, given the Jets' 2 wins are against the Pats at 1-5 and the Titans at 1-4? Their pass protection is leaky, and the defense remains shaky and vulnerable against the run. They need to go at least 7-4 now to finish with a winning record and a chance at the playoffs. I think this trade amplifies the stakes of a season that has already been rocked by the Saleh firing.
No, I think the best move, because once again, what was Devante Adams looking for? Was he looking for true Super Bowl aspirations, which would have been probably the Chiefs, even the Bills, the Ravens, I think, are a part of that. The Saints weren't. And then that goes to the second part. If he was looking for comfort, that would be the Jets. That would be the Saints. Quarterbacks that he's played with and had some success with in college with Derek Carr and about 5 seconds in Las Vegas. And then obviously we know Devante Adams and Aaron Rodgers with the Green Bay Packers. I think the interesting one, actually, because I think we talked about this before. I think it was, a week and a half ago. I thought that this trade would pick up relatively soon, and especially now we take a look at what the Jets situation is. They're 2-4, not looking great. They look very desperate. They already lost their offensive coordinator and head coach. They have interims in both those positions. They are just a bad football team right now. Defense is not looking great. Offense looked good yesterday, but it doesn't look great overall. So for me, Devante Adams, this move was merely a desperation. Do I think it'll have a massive impact? No, because I do think you have a very, very good point. Who is the Jets' number one target? And I think a lot of people could argue Allen Lazard right now is, because he's Rodgers all about comfort. That's why he got Allen Lazard there in the first place. That's why he got Randall Cobb there. That's why he wanted a bunch of these pieces. Nathaniel Hackett was his offensive coordinator. He likes comfort. He doesn't like to go out of his comfort zone. That's why in late game situations, which we saw yesterday, when Aaron Rodgers needs to push all of his cards to the middle of the table, he comes up short a lot of the time. He has a very poor record when losing in the fourth quarter. Like, that's a serious issue with Rodgers because the situation makes him uncomfortable. He does very well with comfort. So the Devante Adams move, I think, actually potentially creates some issues because Garrett Wilson is already a top receiver in the league. Yeah. Allen Lazard has been Rodgers' comfort zone. Now, obviously, Mike Williams is going to be gone. Jets already said, hey, Mike Williams is going to be available. Anyone wants to trade for him, Here you go. After seeing what's happened recently and the amount of interceptions that Rodgers throws when targeting him, and the fact that Rodgers has a little bit over a 47 passer rating when targeting Mike Williams, is that Mike Williams' fault? Is that Rodgers' fault? I think, at least we saw yesterday, it was more Rodgers' fault than Mike Williams' fault. But I think that the more interesting one, the less expected one, was probably Amari Cooper and the Bills, because they needed something. This wasn't out of desperation because they're already in first place in the AFC East. So it wasn't like they're absolutely falling apart and they need to figure out what's going on. I think they needed a weapon because we've already seen twice that when the running game is not as efficient as not Ken Dorsey, Joe Brady's offense needs it to be, who's Josh Allen going to go to? Who's the guy to make a difference when he needs to throw the football? We already saw him throw 30%, complete 30% of his passes 2 weeks ago. That's an issue. That's because you don't have a top-tier wide receiver that could threaten the outside. Now that you have that piece, yes, and he is aging. Both these receivers, I believe, are in their low 30s. So are they in their prime? I think Amari Cooper is a little bit, smoke screen around them because he's played with Deshaun Watson the past couple years. And when you have Deshaun Watson as your quarterback, they're on pace for one of the worst offenses in modern NFL history, which is a serious problem. But I do think this is a massive acquisition for the Bills. It makes them significantly better because we just saw yesterday when they could run the football, they look extremely dominant. Not only yesterday, but in the beginning of the season. Now that you have that supreme wideout that we knew Amari Cooper could be and was, now that he has one of the worst quarterbacks in NFL history now, in Deshaun Watson, maybe he can get back more of his prime with a true top 5, top 4, some people think top 3 quarterback in Josh Allen.
He's got to be ecstatic going to the Bills after what he's been through with the Browns here. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler. I think he boosts the Bills' chances of getting over the hump and maybe getting to the Super Bowl this year. Currently, the Bills are using this spread the wealth approach on offense. They throw it to everybody. And bringing in a bona fide number 1 receiver and Amari Cooper is only going to make things better for Josh Allen. And he won't be the head case that Stephon Diggs was, who was dissing Allen on the sidelines openly in front of the fans in a playoff game a couple of years ago, and was a malcontent at the beginning of last season because he said he wasn't getting the ball enough, and he came up really small in the playoffs last year. So bringing in Cooper, I think, is a really smart move by the Bills. They can give up that much to get him. Allen's the 5th-rated passer in the league right now, and he's the top MVP candidate. Cooper's had 24 catches for 250 yards and 2 TDs so far this year. His career, 691 catches, 9,736 yards, 62 touchdowns in 10 years. He's played for the Raiders, the Cowboys, the Browns, and now the Bills. He's in a much, much better spot right now than being with the Browns, who are 1-5, playing with Deshaun Watson, who's a 28th rated passer, and a coach, Stefanski, who plans to stick with Watson.
Yeah, and that's the big one, the fact that Stefanski, and we're going to talk about the Browns-Eagles game, because Sirianni, I don't know why you're caring that much. I don't know why you're getting that upset with your own fans, and I'm going to get into that later on in the show. But I think Amari Cooper has to be extremely happy. But for the Buffalo Bills, I think they're probably the happiest ones. And I told you this earlier. I think they were truly in the Devante Adams sweepstakes, because why wouldn't you be? I think he's still a premier wide receiver in the league. But the fact is, the Bills had the 30th ranked cap space. They had no money to work with. And I think if the Raiders took on a massive chunk of his salary, that creates flexibility for you. But the Jets were able to obviously afford Devante Adams more, so the Raiders are more inclined because they didn't need to pay so much to get rid of their receiver, so the Bills were left with the next best option, which is Amari Cooper. And now, think about it. Would you rather have Amari Cooper over Christian Kirk? Yes. Would you rather have him over DeAndre Hopkins? I'm going to go with yes. There are not a lot of great, also you could think of Deontay Johnson. Would you take Amari Cooper over him? Yes, those are all receivers that could potentially be, and a lot of people think that they will be, on the trade block because their teams are so bad. So I think that the fact that the Bills got the next best guy, which only enhances their offense, which needed that part of it, because you can't rely on Shakir. You can't rely on Keon Coleman, who's only a rookie. You can't rely on Dalton Kincaid to be your top-tier threat. They're not Travis Kelce. So Dalton Kincaid isn't Travis Kelce. You can't only rely on him to make the big-time plays.
No, I agree.
Shakir's not a top 15 wide receiver in the league.
Shakir has played better, though.
He has played great, but he's not a top 50. You're not fearing Shakir. You're not. You could fear Amari Cooper if him and Allen start to click. You could fear that. You're fearing Devante Adams now that he's with Rodgers. Maybe you didn't with Gardner Minshew, Jimmy Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer, or Aiden O'Connell as your quarterback. But now that he's with Aaron Rodgers, who is one of the best throwers in NFL history, now that adds a whole nother layer, and you're potentially getting rid of
say Devante Adams
threat
in terms
in Mike Williams.
In terms of comfort zone, that's Rodgers' number one security blanket. Right?
Absolutely. We saw that the very last year when they were together. It's he's out there somewhere. Let me just chuck it up and he might catch it. Yeah. We saw that in the playoff game against San Francisco. A number of throws, deep throws to Devante Adams. Where is he? I don't know. I'm just going to throw it there and hope he catches it. They lost that game, but that was kind of how Rodgers worked. And then 1 year removed, and now 2 years removed off of Devante Adams, and it didn't look good. Like, Rodgers was a bad quarterback. So far throughout this year, he has some of the worst numbers of his entire career. And his wide receiver core consists of 2 good receivers. Yeah,
I would say Rodgers can't be sour on the sidelines anymore. And he sure looked at last night, sitting over there with a big sour expression on his face.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes probably because he was hurting badly after getting sacked so brutally a couple of times. But now you can't be sour grapes anymore. Aaron, you've got your security blankets. You've got Devante Adams, and you've got
Garrett
Wilson, and you've also got Lazard.
Yeah.
So what more could you ask for? And you got Breece Hall, one of the better running backs.
And Braylon Allen, who also looks great.
Braylon Allen, and you've got all these pieces that the Jets have assembled.
Great defense, good
as Woody Johnson says, the best team we've had in 25 years. There's no excuses now. You got to go out and win. Well, and it's going to be tough.
That's an issue.
You're going to be tough for you. You're going to be playing the Steelers next week. You better hope that Russell Wilson's starting.
Well, I'll say this. The Steelers' defense is getting healthier, which is going to be a problem for a Jets offense that's had penalty trouble, holding trouble. It just ruins drives, ruins plays. We saw it yesterday. Braylon Allen runs up the middle, touchdown. Penalty, guess what? You have to kick a field goal. I mean, that's a problem. That's an issue. But I think that these are both incredible acquisitions for their respective teams. I think it'll be Amari Cooper making the bigger impact than Devante Adams, because I just think it's the Jets. It's the Jets.
That's right. It's
people were expecting them to do deep playoff run Super Bowl. They're 2-4. The offense doesn't look great. Their defense is not as good as it once was. You have an interim head coach and a brand new play caller. It looked better, but in the big picture of things, there's still issues, still glaring holes. So for me, Amari Cooper will have the bigger impact with Josh Allen. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up, Jerry Jones attacks a radio host for asking simple questions after the Cowboys get absolutely crushed by the Detroit Lions, 47-9. We're also talking about Russell Wilson's now taking first-team reps in the part 2 of the quarterback competition between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. We'll talk about that and break all that down right after this.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance, and why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Stephen Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Tuesday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show. So Jerry Jones was on 105.3 The Fan yesterday, I believe, and had a bit of a scruffle, I would say, with some radio. Yeah, I'm making up words over here.
Scruffle.
Because it was pretty brutal. He was attacking some radio hosts over asking about if it was a good idea to not pick up a lot of players in the offseason. Jerry Jones absolutely went to town on the radio host. Take a listen to what he had to say on 105.3 The Fan.
This is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job.
Well, my job is to ask
why.
why.
A job, or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man.
Jerry, we're trying to figure out why the team is.
I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. You're not going to figure out what the team is doing right or wrong. If you are, or any 5 or 10 like you, you need to come to this meeting I'm going to today. There are 32 teams here. You're geniuses.
So yeah, that's absolutely brutal, calling out radio hosts for asking simple questions. But yeah, no, the Cowboys got absolutely crushed, 47-9 against the Detroit Lions. Dak Prescott only 178 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks, got sacked 4 times. There's an issue with the Dallas Cowboys. We've seen it the entire season. Now Jerry Jones going after radio host. I want to know, were you surprised though the Cowboys got absolutely pummeled at home to the Detroit Lions?
I would say my takeaway for the Cowboys is the Cowboys are a shadow of the team they've been the past 3 years when they went 12-5 and they rarely lost at home. Now they're 3-3. They've been blown out at home 3 times. It's one thing to lose, and it's another to be completely dominated at home, and that's what they've been, and that's really worrisome. I think that could cost them the playoffs this year. They really look like they're not going to get there the way they've been playing lately. And generally they win at home. They've been now blown out the 3 times in a row. As I said, they can't run the ball and they can't stop the run. That's basically their problem. They only have 2 players on offense that anybody is worried about. Prescott, who's playing poorly. And that's the reason. The reason for that is they know that he and Lamb are the only offensive weapons they have. So they can just take those 2 guys away the game, and then it's pretty easy to beat them. I think the poor play was predictable, given that they didn't do much of anything in the offseason to replace the players they left. They have too many injuries, particularly on defense. Parsons and Lawrence are out. They need to get those guys back if they're going to do anything. They have no running game. Zeke looks over the hill, and the O-line is not as good as in prior years. And the defense, as I said, they can't stop the run. This has been a problem. They managed to do it last week against the Steelers, but they fell apart again and at home with not being able to stop the run. And I think that's as much the motivation of the coaches to the players to get them to perform as well as they can as it is the abilities of the Cowboys players. They do have 5 starters out on defense, so that's a serious problem. But even Jerry Jones, who was on Fox on Sunday, where they were congratulating him on his 82nd birthday, said, we didn't think we'd have these 5 new players in here, but they're there, and we think they're capable, and they have to stay in their rushing lanes. And if they do that, then we'll do well against the Lions. Well, that was certainly didn't come true. Blown out 47-9. And to get blown out on your birthday like that, I feel bad for Jerry in a way, but I think, Jerry, it's time for you to hand the GM role over to somebody else. You should consider firing Mike Zimmer. He's lost the defense. And McCarthy, I don't think he'll be fired during the season, but likely he'll be replaced next year, particularly if they don't make the playoffs. I'd say Belichick's going to get strong consideration.
Well, here's the first thing I'll say. I'll jump into the game, but I do want to say something about Jerry Jones' comment. What is media? What is sports media? What are radio hosts supposed to do? You're in an interview. You're asked questions. That's their job. Going after a radio host based on asking you questions on how poor you're doing. You're the general manager of the team. You do make the decisions. Hold yourself accountable. They're your decisions. You decided not to allocate the funds to get top-tier talent. That's your decision. You could have gotten Derrick Henry for 2 years at $9 million. You could have done that to $9 million per year. You could have done that. You had the cap space to do it. Instead, you re-signed, or technically re-signed because you already had him, but you decided to bring back Ezekiel Elliott. That's a horrible decision. There's a reason why you got off of him. He wasn't good anymore, but yet you re-signed him. You decide to bring him back, like, for old time's sake. That doesn't make any sense. That's the first thing. You're asked questions. That's their job. Going after radio hosts, I got a problem with that. They're there to ask you questions. To threaten also their job stance because they're asking you about decisions you made, yeah, that's a low blow. That's a very low blow. My problem is Jerry Jones doesn't take any accountability. This is the roster he built. Even Gerard Mayo is hinting that he's left with Bill Belichick's just scraps that he has to figure out. So even Gerard Mayo can call out a former coach, and that is arguably the greatest coach of all time. Yet Jerry Jones can't take his own take personal accountability for decisions he made. But going into this game, are we surprised? Seriously, are we surprised that the Cowboys, led by quarterback Dak Prescott, got blown out by a good team? That's a rinse and repeat process. It always happens. We could talk about their injured defense, but we've already seen that a healthy defense with Micah Parsons, with DeMarcus Lawrence, we've already seen them get blown out by the New Orleans Saints. The Saints don't look like the same team anymore, but they absolutely blew out the Dallas Cowboys. I think the Lions, and we saw it several times in this game, what were they doing? Offensive linemen were trying to score touchdowns. Now, they all got called back thanks to the refs, but they were trying to, sort of say, screw you to the refs from last year. Remember the 2-point conversion, Taylor Decker, Dan Skipper, reporting eligible or not, thanks to Brad Allen. It worked, except it didn't because of the penalty. But I think what's kind of funny is we take a look at Mike McCarthy. I think the Cowboys have kind of plateaued. Remember, 3 straight seasons of 12 wins, but Dak Prescott didn't look too good. And then he had a great year last year. But it's the same result. Blown out in the playoffs again. In fact, would you believe, and this is crazy, that since their last league championship at the end of the 95 season, the Cowboys have had more losing seasons than playoff wins. 3 more. 8-5. Dak Prescott, he's been the quarterback of all those playoff games. There's an issue. He's been since 2016 we got in the league. He's 2-5. All those 7 playoff games, he's looked terrible in basically every single one of them. In fact, you know what I find crazy? The Cowboys, America's team, now have the highest paid player in the NFL, making $240 million with the largest guaranteed contract in NFL history at $231 million. And what does Jerry Jones expect? The same old treatment that every other bad team that has low expectations has, and just be like, it's another year. We're not great anymore. They're the Dallas Cowboys, the richest franchise in the 4 major sports. They're worth nearly $10 billion. And what do you expect? To be like, oh, shucks, we lost the game again. We got blown out. What could we have done? No. They're held to a higher standard because of their history, because of the talent they have around them, because of the contracts they dole out. And how about this? Stop overpaying your players by paying them too late. Pay them on time. You'll save some money. So then you don't need to get asked why you didn't make any moves in the offseason. Save your money. So then you can pay for players.
I think he should give himself a birthday present and get a new GM.
That's impossible because it's an ego thing. We just saw that being asked about decisions that you made or the decisions that you decided not to make, he already got ticked off by that.
Yeah.
So it's a lack of accountability. That's what it is. Can they get a refund for Dak Prescott, please? Can they? $240 million for 4 years. Yeah. $231 million guaranteed.
He's played the worst he's played in a couple of years now after he got this big contract. He has not been good. I have a takeaway for the Lions.
Sure.
They win in the short term by beating Dallas, but they lose in the long term by losing Hutchinson.
Yeah, no, that's a massive loss.
Hutchinson gone for the year, maybe longer, with a double compound leg fracture. He's the heart and soul of the defense, the sack leader. The Lions had almost 500 yards of offense in this game. Defensively, they suffocated the Cowboys. Cowboys only have 53 yards on 17 carries. They have 3.1 yards per carry, is the worst in the NFL. They could have had, as you said, Derrick Henry for $9 million, and they passed on that. I had Campbell's quote on Hutchinson's loss. These are hard moments. It's hard for everyone when you're standing there and that's one of yours. Something like that happens. But our guys have a good job, have done a good job, and our coaches just getting them refocused on the job ahead of them. Because if you dwell on that too much, start playing a little timid, that's when you get hurt. So our guys snapped right back in. They lived in the moment. We were in. That's a credit to our players and our coaches.
Well, they do play timid. They play soft. They play really soft. And it's gotten so bad. A Hall of Fame guard in Zach Martin had a big fat 0 on the Pro Football Focus pass block grade. A 0. He had a 28 total grade for this past game against the Detroit Lions. And you know what? They're on a bye week this week. I don't think it'll help. Because what is the main problem that the Cowboys have seen so far this season, please? What can't the Cowboys do?
Stop the run.
Let's take a look at their schedule real quick. San Francisco.
They're going to lose.
Great running team. Falcons of Bijan Robinson.
They might play that one okay.
They have Bijan Robinson, one of the best running backs in the game.
Yeah.
The Eagles with Saquon Barkley.
The Eagles are inconsistent.
That is true, but
maybe the running game.
They're currently the 6th best running team in the NFL.
Yeah.
The Houston Texans. Joe Mixon just had a great game against the Patriots. He really is a major X factor. The Commanders, which is shocking, are the 5th best running team in the National Football League.
They played well against the Ravens. They almost beat them.
Right. And then the Giants, Daniel Jones, whatever. That'll probably be a win, although they did keep it close. The Cincinnati Bengals, I think they're only going to get better. The Panthers, that's a win. I think the Bucks right now, Bucky Irving and Rashad White, they're a very good 1-2 punch combo. Very even in the yards that they gain. Eagles again with Saquon Barkley, and then the Commanders. This is not a playoff caliber team. We're looking at a team that could potentially, I know they're 3-3 right now, but this very well could be an 8-9 team, 9-8 team. And with the NFC North looking like the best division in football, I think it'll be very difficult for the Cowboys to string enough wins to push them past any of the teams that are fighting, in the NFC North for the 6 and the 7 seed. This is a serious problem. The Commanders look great. Eagles are always hit and miss, though. Like that's the weird thing. The Eagles have just been so inconsistent. The NFC South is looking good for the top 2 teams, the Bucks and the Falcons. There's definitely a situation where we see that the Dallas Cowboys missed the playoffs in Dak's first year under this incredibly ridiculous contract. Mike McCarthy, this is the last year of his deal. He'll be gone. Mike Zimmer, they just hired him. He may get fired before the year ends if the defense doesn't get in check. There's a lot of issues right now for the Dallas Cowboys. But here's the problem. All their issues are signed on long-term deals. Dak Prescott's the biggest issue on this team. You could argue injuries all you want. Even pre-injuries, the Cowboys couldn't stop anybody. So once again, I don't want to hear about injuries. Did it help? I don't think so, because the Lions are already a great team. So I don't want to hear about injuries. They were this bad even without the injuries. What do you want from me? They were bad with injuries, bad without injuries. And the large part is their quarterback. He doesn't beat good teams.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. He does not beat good teams.
I think Campbell was talking about, he was worried about his own team being timid by focusing on the loss of Hutchinson. You got to get beyond it, and unfortunately, that's football. There's not much sympathy in it. There's no looking back. You got to look forward. You got to be very tough, and that's what the message he was sending. Mark
my words, Hassan Reddick to the Detroit Lions. Hassan Reddick to the Lions.
You're probably right.
They need a pass rusher. I think Hassan Reddick would be a very good pick. Yeah. They just need to figure out their agent situation because
you were right about Devante Adams.
Everybody had Devante Adams going to the Jets. He was the large favorite. But speaking about teams that potentially have a situation at hand, especially the quarterback situation, it looks like the Pittsburgh Steelers have reopened their quarterback competition, with Mike Tomlin talking to the press on Tuesday about reopening the quarterback competition now that Russell Wilson is healthy. Take a listen to what Mike Tomlin, head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, had to say.
over the course of the week, I got comfortable with his ability to display his health. Now it's about, knocking the rust off. He did some of that last week. He is in consideration this week. We'll see where that leads us, man. Both guys at the quarterback position are scheduled to work tomorrow, and we'll just walk it day by day, all geared toward putting ourselves in best position to win the football game.
So I'm actually curious. Do you think it would be a mistake at this point in the season to replace Justin Fields with Russell Wilson?
Absolutely. I think it's a huge mistake. He's a 35-year-old Wilson who hasn't played at all this season. He hardly played at all in the preseason because of this calf strain that he had. Fields, on the other hand, he stepped up there. He's 66.3% completion, 1,106 yards, 5 TDs, 1 interception. That's very good for him. He used to turn the ball over a lot in Chicago. He's corrected that. He also has 231 yards rushing and 5 TDs on the ground. He's accounted for 10 touchdowns already in 6 games. The passing game, maybe it's not quite what they desire, but the running game will suffer without Fields. And weren't the Steelers supposed to be a run-first offense with Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator? Last year, Wilson had 3,070 yards and 66.4% completion, 26 touchdowns and 8 TDs. If you extrapolate Fields based on his performance so far, he's going to do better than that with 3,133 yards and 28 touchdowns. So week 6 was Fields' best QBR at 74.7. It wasn't his best. It actually is his worst as a passer rating. But the Steelers won. 78.1% of Steelers fans prefer Fields to continue starting. Fields turns likely losses into gains with his running ability that Wilson doesn't have. He's counted for 110 yards created by Fields' mobility to escape pressure. It covers up the weaknesses of the Steelers' offensive line, which is porous. The players love playing with him. He's not making mistakes. He's running the football. Maybe he needs more passing opportunities to get better in the passing game. And when something isn't broken, don't fix it.
Well, yeah, because what's there to fix? It's working. Why would you fix something that isn't broken? My question is, what did the Steelers want from Justin Fields? What were the expectations going into this game? Or into the season, rather. Because they were actually, he's going to back up Russ. That's what the expectations were. Now that after Russ had to deal with his calf injury, what were then the expectations moving forward? Was it just, don't lose games? Well, he did that to a large extent.
He's done everything they asked him to do.
Exactly. So I do think...
Even in the losses that he had, he led fantasy with 31 points in the loss against the Cowboys.
Well, here's my thing, right? They're currently tied for the number 1 spot in the AFC North with the Baltimore Ravens. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's definitely pretty good. And that's with an offensive line, and Mike Tomlin even said it in that press conference. They've had, I think, 6 lineups in 6 games. The offensive line can't stay healthy. Linebacker group can't stay healthy. I mean, the entire team seems like it's banged up. We've had George Pickens give up on routes. I mean, that's just something George Pickens does. He kind of just shuts down a large part. And even Mike, you bring it up, Mike Tomlin even admitted Russell Wilson does not have the same mobility and the same legs that Justin Fields has. It adds a layer to his game. What was Russ's big, claim to fame? Rolling out, sending it deep, 65 yards for a touchdown. Yeah. When's the last time we saw that?
Making something out of a broken play. He can't do it anymore.
Exactly. And that's why I think that this would be a massive mistake. My question, and here's the big thing, right? Because I have seen this a number of times. I've watched basically every Pittsburgh Steelers game this season. There is one issue that I keep seeing repeatedly. Justin Fields doesn't really have a nice touch on his throws. They're more line drives that sail over the head if it's too far. I mean, Mac Jones, yeah, you always bring it up. He has a rainbow throw. He doesn't have a lot of, grit, spit, and a whole lot of duct tape slinging it. He doesn't have that. It's more of just a nice rainbow to in the breadbasket. He doesn't have a lot of zip on it. Zippy Zappy. That's what you call Bailey Zappy when he replaced Mac Jones. Justin Fields, he has that line drive thing. He doesn't have a good touch to get it right over the defender, right in the hands of one of his receivers. And that's an issue. Does Russ have that? I mean, how big of an upgrade would that be? Would that fit Arthur Smith's system? Because I guarantee you, they cannot run the exact same offense. They can't. It could be a similar offense, but you got to take a lot of those quarterback draws out. You got to take a lot of those option plays out because nobody fears Russ's legs as much as they used to.
You lose the mobility that you have with Fields, which disguises the weaknesses in the offensive line, which will be exposed when Russell Wilson is back there and he gets smothered.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and Russ...
And they're going up against the Jets, who have a pretty good defense.
With Devante Adams coming back as well. Yeah. Devante Adams says he's probably going to play in the game against the Steelers, so we'll see him out there. But here's the big thing, right? And let's be honest. If Russell Wilson was really better, or Justin Fields was that bad, I think that they would have announced a permanent starter for the rest of the season. Mike Tomlin has not done that at any part so far. In the preseason, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, all the way to week 6. There has never been a definite, okay, this will be our starting quarterback moving forward.
Yeah.
This will be our quarterback for this week.
I think when the preseason they were intrigued with Justin Fields' athleticism and his mobility, and that even though Russell Wilson, maybe he could have started with his calf slightly injured there, they said, no, we're going to go with Fields and see what we've got. Well, they got something pretty good. They're 4-2, and he's playing within the offense the way you want him to play. It's a run-first offense. He's a game manager. That's what you wanted, and it's worked. And now you're going to fix it? You're going to fix something that's not broken? I don't get it.
I think Russell the big thing is the lack of turnovers.
And he's only turned the ball over once. Russell Wilson threw 8 interceptions last year. He's rusty. I don't know. I think that the Jets should be happy that this is being considered. If Russell Wilson shows up out there on Sunday, I'm waiting to see who they're going to pick for the starter. If they pick Wilson, I'm going to probably pick the Jets.
I find it shocking that his completion percentage has gone from 61.4% last season to 66.3%. Like, that's a massive jump. He's playing better.
He's playing better in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's a problem that Justin Fields has. When he's winning in the fourth quarter, he has I think it's a 60 passer rating.
The other thing is, what does this say to him? How does he supposed to feel about this? He did everything
You're replaceable,
they asked.
always?
They did it. He did everything they asked. He's played well. He's had high fantasy points. His QBR is improving every game. The team is leading the division at 4-2. You're going to pull him?
And also, the team believes in him.
For a guy who hasn't played any football at all since it was benched last year with 2 games to go. Hasn't played any football at all since then. Only played 1 series in the preseason. And you're going to throw him out there? I think I think it's a mistake. I think it should continue to let Justin Fields play until he makes mistakes or something that warrants him being benched. He's done nothing to warrant being pulled.
I think the biggest tell on how good a quarterback is as a person is the locker room. I guarantee you, almost if not every player and coach believes in Justin Fields. You don't hear anything negative coming out. Even Arthur Smith took a shot at Russell Wilson indirectly while talking about Justin Fields. Not a lot of drama. He's very coachable. We've heard, think about it, several coaches, very credible coaches, give up on Russ. We had the fans of Chicago, coaches of Chicago, players within Chicago. You can't find a negative thing that a majority of people say, especially in the locker room. Meanwhile, Russ, we've heard so many things about Russ. Pete Carroll gave up on him. Sean Payton gave up on him. Mike Tomlin, I don't know. I think they're going to try to give him a shot. It would not surprise me if Russ is out there.
They have that same intrigue that they had about Justin Fields. Now they're feeling about Russell Wilson because the passing game has not been exactly what they wanted.
That's true.
But they don't give Justin Fields the opportunity to pass the ball that much. They're a run-first offense, and he's excelled in that setting. He has 5 running touchdowns.
No, like that's very impressive. The lack of turnovers, the efficiency that he's playing at. I'm surprised how well Justin Fields has been playing.
He has 231 rushing yards.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
He has 110 yards of offense that they wouldn't have gotten without his mobility.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Disguises the weaknesses of the offensive line, which will be exposed when Russell Wilson is out there. You wait and see.
I think the biggest thing, one of the biggest things, besides just how loved he is in the locker room, is Justin Fields is not generating as much pressure due to his own walking into pressure. That's gone down this year. So he's more aware within the pocket. He's not creating pressure because of himself. We haven't seen Russell Wilson do that yet. It looks like in the preseason he was doing that.
Well, Fields is continuing to develop. He's continued to play better, and now they're going to sit him down. That seems like a bad mistake to me.
I completely agree with you. Let's take a 30-second break, but coming up, Drake May, his NFL debut was pretty good, at least I think, and also Nick Sirianni taking shots at fans and then being forced to apologize. We'll talk about that and give our reactions right after this quick break.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show. So Drake May made his NFL debut against the Houston Texans, and while the Patriots got absolutely blown out 41-21, there was a lot of, I think, positives in the case of Drake May, third overall pick in this past year's draft, after being benched for Jacoby Brissett through the first 5 games. This was Drake May's real time to shine in his first start, when a lot of people, analysts, fans, coaches, all thought he'd get murdered behind an offensive line that is even more banged up now after that game. But instead, I think he looked pretty good. 20 of 33, 243 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he did have 3 total turnovers, 2 picks, and a fumble. But I don't know, what grade would you give Drake May after his first game in the NFL?
I would give him, and you're probably going to disagree with this. I give him an A-. A-, yeah. I think that though they were blown out by the Texans, a 41-21 score, that didn't tell the whole story. I think May left many feeling encouraged after his first NFL start, and me included, and you included as well. 243 yards passing, 38 yards rushing. He was the leading rusher. He had 3 TD passes, including that beautiful 40-yard pass right into the arms of Kayshon Boutte. That was a beautiful pass. He had 2 interceptions and 4 sacks, but he was under a lot of pressure. He's playing behind a sieve of an offensive line. I'd say most people look at the Patriots with him at quarterback as an ascending team with May at quarterback. His mistakes were a byproduct of the poor protection around him. And his youthfulness, I think, is his first NFL start. I think he showed, the reason I give him an A-, he showed toughness. He took a big hit on that strip sack, which I don't fault him at all for that turnover. He never saw the guy coming, and he really got hit hard by Will Anderson, one of the best defensive players in the league. And he was back out there the next series. He didn't complain, though he was hurt, and he managed to get back out there, and he played well even after that. He overcame a non-existent offensive line and a woeful running game. He was the leading rusher. He provides the fans with a hopeful feeling.
Yeah.
As I said, he shows athleticism, toughness, and he's an accurate passer. I think it should be easier for him against the Jags, but the trip to London will be tough, and the Jags stayed over there. They played over there last week, and they were over there, so they're going to be more rested, even though they got beat by the Bears in London. Maybe it's a chance for the Patriots. They should be competitive in this game, and it will be fun to watch Drake May playing his second game.
Unfortunately, I'm going to probably disagree with you. Although I will say that the home teams and the foreign countries, that still stands this season, with I believe every home team winning so far, although the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence generally, they do pretty well overseas. Yeah, I know, a lot of people, if you've been following my Drake May take a while ago, when I had a problem with him somehow losing to Jacoby Brissett, I was wondering why. I was surprised that Drake May, the 3rd overall pick, would sit behind Jacoby Brissett, because I thought he would be better. And the fact that he was not doing great, the fact that he had such a bad start to practice and everything like that was, I think, cause for concern. When it comes to my grade, though, I'm not that surprised you gave him an A-. You know why? I give him a B+. I can't give you an A if you have 3 turnovers. That's my big thing. You get an A if you have 1 when you're a rookie. But 2 picks, the first one, by the way, that one was his fault. The second, it was a great defensive play. You can't really fault him for that. And then the fumble, their turnovers, but they had a little bit of context. I was incredibly impressed. Incredibly impressed. Drake May looked poised. I think he had relatively good pocket awareness for a rookie. His feet, which was a massive problem for him coming out of the draft. Bill Belichick was a massive proponent saying you gotta fix his footwork. It's bad. You gotta fix it. Well, I think he did pretty well. He was under pressure, like you mentioned, a bunch, making actually some very good throws under pressure. 3 touchdowns, which hasn't happened in forever. It took Drake May 1 game to do something Brissett didn't do in 5. But let's take a look at the comparison so far this season, because Drake May, and by the way, the numbers are a little bit skewed because he did come in late in one of the games and was 4 of 8. It was just bad. But these are so far the stats this season. Now, personally, from me, if I'm going to do this, I would just give Drake May the stats just for this game and say this is his only game because he came in late. But these are the numbers so far. Same exact completion percentage. He's 0-1 record compared to 1-4 for Brissett. Passing yards, Brissett beats him out by a little bit. Touchdown to interception ratio. Guess what? Drake May did something that Jacoby Brissett hasn't done all year. Throw more than 2 touchdown passes. More yards an attempt for May. Better passer rating. He's a better quarterback. That's simply what it was.
Season?
What's up?
This includes the preseason?
No, this is just the regular season.
Well, he's only played 1 game, and he had 243 yards. So how does he get 132?
Because he came in late. Yeah, now here's the thing. If
that counted a whole game against him?
Well, no, it didn't count a whole game, but it counts for numbers.
I know,
it still counts for numbers.
It's 2 games, it should be like 1 1/4.
Right, no.
His yards per game is higher than that.
I opened saying that. I said if it were me, I would just add this past game's numbers. But if I'm being honest and adding the true context to it, if you look at the yearly stats, those are technically his yearly stats.
His passing grade rating looks pretty good at 82.
Obviously, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, I'm impressed.
He looks like Tom Brady to me out there.
Again, you're talking about the Tom Brady thing. No.
He does, because when Brady was his first year, he was thin. He was slight. He wasn't built up the way he was later in his career. He looked just like Drake May, I think. I think they look a lot alike.
I would say something right now. Jalen Polk, their 2nd-round pick right now, looks like a bust. Drop after drop after drop. He can't hold on to the football. Jalen Polk is right now not a good receiver. Demario Douglas, great game. Great game. Had over 90 yards receiving in this game. Kendrick Bourne, this was his first game back. He only had 2 catches for 9 yards. The offensive line is abysmal. It is the worst offensive line in the NFL. They got banged up even in this game. They had to start Ben Brown at center ahead of Nick Leverett, who, by the way, they released yesterday. Coming from the Raiders practice squad. The Raiders also have one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. So if he was on the practice squad of the Raiders, you know how bad he actually is. Also, let's keep going with that. The offensive line, they lost Vidarian Lowe and Michael Jordan. They left the game with injuries. They had to put in Zach Robinson at left tackle. City So came back in again. I mean, the offensive line is garbage. So, I mean, the fact that, and people, once again,
shame on the Patriots. I mean, they knew they had this problem last year, and they didn't do anything to fix it. It's just as bad, if not worse.
Here's my big problem with it, right? You need to face adversity. Caleb Williams went into a situation with a bad offensive line and no running game. You develop within the system. You don't develop by sitting on a bench normally. If you have a Hall of Fame quarterback ahead of you, then you might have a better shot at succeeding when you finally get in there. And that was my original take. You can't develop well when Jacoby Brissett is your starting quarterback. Because as we've seen this season, what are you learning how to do?
Play quarterback.
Know how to be a good loser?
Yeah.
Seriously, what are you learning how to do? Because he was getting pressured all the time, taking unnecessary sacks, did not throw the ball down the field. People were complaining about Mac Jones last season not throwing the ball down the field. Mac Jones threw it. Mac Jones had more deep pass attempts than Brissett had so far this season through the same amount of games. A higher accuracy, more attempts, and people were talking about ripping on Mac Jones for not throwing it deep. He was a better deep ball thrower through 5 games than Jacoby Brissett has been. So I once again face adversity. Face it head on. If you're really that guy, you'll figure it out. That's what the great quarterbacks do.
Yeah, well, they're going to find
Bryce
out now.
Young faced adversity, and he failed. That's why Andy Dalton's the quarterback. C.J. Stroud faced a 3-13-1 team, and he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Brock Purdy, last pick in the draft. That's adversity. Not having a single team believe you until the very last pick in the draft. He goes into the 49ers, makes it to an NFC Championship game and a Super Bowl. Face adversity. Now he needs to work on second half. He needs to work on late game when trailing. But even in the playoff game, we saw him face adversity, make some big-time runs, big-time plays. He's doing that. Face adversity. And here's the problem.
Well, I'm sure Drake May is willing to do that given the opportunity. They only let him get in the game here. This is his first start of his NFL career against a very, very good team. And I think he acquitted himself quite well.
Here's my problem, right? And I think this is why a lot of people are like, oh, no, he's going to get ruined like Mac Jones. No. Two completely different quarterbacks. I think it was an overreaction to what happened to Mac. That you didn't want to do the same exact thing or maybe put Drake May in a worse situation. You have to see, though. They're two different people, two different quarterbacks. People were comparing us, Drake May has a much better arm than Mac Jones. He's more mobile than Mac Jones. So why are you treating him like he's the same quarterback? Yeah, it's the same team, but why are you treating him like he's the exact same? That's what everybody... He has a better deep ball than Mac Jones. He has better accuracy deep than Mac Jones. He has a better agility. He's more mobile. Why treat him the same? Why give him actually more protective treatment than you gave Mac Jones? Mac Jones won his starting job. He wasn't just given the starting job. He beat Cam Newton out for the starting job.
So you're saying Gerard Mayo made a mistake.
I think, and that's what we said. And that's what I still believe, that starting Gerard Mayo starting Jacoby Brissett was a mistake. Because we could already see, maybe the Patriots would have a couple more wins already. Maybe they could have beaten the Seattle Seahawks.
At least May would have more experience.
They absolutely would have beaten the Miami Dolphins with Tyler Huntley at quarterback.
Yeah.
100%. And if the defense could maybe, stop somebody, the amount of, 20-yard runs, 20-yard throws, they had a couple 50-yard rushes in this game. If the defense could also stop somebody, maybe that could help Drake May succeed. Guess what? They put up 21 points with a rookie quarterback, no offensive line. And guess what? No starting running back. Ramondre Stevenson was out for this game. And the defense was horrible. I'm mad at Patriots fans and Patriots media for thinking that Drake May would be ruined because he's out there. He's a third overall pick. What do you want him to do? Here's the thing. Third overall, if it's the same thing. Like Jimmy G was drafted in the second round with Tom Brady. You had Tom Brady as a quarterback. You're not going to play Jimmy Garoppolo. You're not. Guess what? 3 years after Jimmy G got drafted, Belichick wanted to replace Brady with Garoppolo. Think about this. Jimmy G, who made it to a Super Bowl, the San Francisco 49ers drafted Trey Lance third. They wanted to make Trey Lance the starter. A year after? He was supposed to be the starter. Then he got hurt. That's what happens. When Jimmy Garoppolo has injury history, can't stay on the field, and in big-time moments comes up small, that's what you do. You had Jacoby Brissett as the starting quarterback, and you didn't want to start your third overall pick quarterback because you didn't want him to get ruined like Mac Jones, get killed behind an offensive line. It didn't make any sense. The offensive line's going to be bad. It'll be this year. Well, it'll be next year. It'll be bad.
He's out there now.
Exactly. It's too late already.
Well, it's too late for this season.
The Patriots
they're 1-5.
1-5. 1-5. And guess what?
What do you think they'd be if Drake May had started every game?
I think you give him 2 more wins. I don't know if you win the Bengals game. I have no idea if you win the Bengals game. But historically, the Bengals
I would give him that one. I'd give him that one.
Okay, so against the Seahawks, I would definitely give you that game. And then the Dolphins. You absolutely would have beaten Tyler Huntley and the Miami Dolphins.
So they'd be 3.
They would clearly be 3-3. 3-3. And it would be like, oh my God, okay, the Patriots may have hit. The Patriots may have hit on a quarterback. Drake May, under pressure, he's been growing every game, making some big-time throws. Think about this. Since 2020, there's been 3 40-yard touchdowns, or 40-yard passes, I believe, of air yards. Drake May already has 1. Mac Jones has the other, and Cam Newton rounds it out for the number 3 spot. 3. It's either 40-yard touchdowns or 40-yard air yards. Something like that. 3 since 2020. Mm-hmm. Mac Jones, Cam Newton, and now Drake May.
Well, we'll see how he plays on Sunday.
It just looks different.
It'll be fun to watch. It's going to be Sunday morning.
Yeah, no, 9:30 in the morning. But again, I'm not saying the Patriots will be a playoff team with Drake May. And I said this even when we talked about
Probably
it
not this year, but maybe they're going to get a high draft pick in the next round.
Right now they're the first overall pick in the draft.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I said this the last time we talked about it. They're going to keep losing games. It's going to look better. It's not going to be so demoralizing where your offense doesn't do anything. No, you're going to win games. You're going to look better losing. You're still going to lose. You'll just look better doing it.
Do you think they'll lose against the Jaguars then on Sunday? Or have you decided on your pick for that yet?
I haven't decided. I'm leaning Jaguars.
Yeah.
I'm leaning Jaguars.
I am too, because they've been over there for a week. I think that is an advantage, not having that time. They can adjust to the time difference.
Fair. All right, let's get to our final topic. The show is going by full head of steam. There's a little bit of controversy that happened this past weekend when Nick Sirianni, and let's play the clip right now, just yelling at fans calling for his job. Nick Sirianni responding, kind of snapping at the fans again. I mean, this is just a bad look. The Eagles have been hit or miss. This is a massive problem. Nick Sirianni has had his moments where he's flipping off the fans. He's calling out Chiefs fans. It's been an issue, but he actually apologized yesterday talking to the media, and this is what he had to say after he was asked about, it maybe talking with the owner a little bit. This is what he had to say.
I would say this about that. What I was really doing, I was trying to bring energy yesterday, enthusiasm yesterday. And I'm sorry and disappointed on how my energy was directed at the end of the game. And, my energy should be all in on coaching, motivating, right, and celebrating with our guys.
What I find funny is that he said he was trying to bring the energy, and then later on in that press conference, I think 2 sentences over, said that the fans are bringing the energy, the players are bringing the energy. So you were the only person not having the energy?
Who's he bringing the energy to? The fans to tell him to get lost?
Right, the fans that he even admitted were already bringing the energy. He was trying to bring the energy. Nick Sirianni's all over the place. But here's the question, though. Do you have a problem with Sirianni's interaction with his own fans?
Yeah, I do. He has a history of yelling at opposing teams' fans. Now he's yelling at his own fans while they chant, "Fire Nick," at halftime as they headed into the tunnel. He jeered at Colts fans in 2022 after an Eagles win. He yelled at the Kansas City fans after the Eagles' upset of Kansas City in 2023. Now, this is the first time he's yelled at his own fan base, which is potentially a sign of how much pressure is affecting him each week. The Eagles are 3-2, but they're 4-8 in their last 12 games. They're playing poor with inconsistency and slow starts. The fans are frustrated with a lack of consistency on offense and how Cleveland was driving to tie the game late in the fourth quarter. Sirianni, as you say, he apologized. He said he needs to use better wisdom when he's trying to create energy on his sidelines, and then he went into what you said. I think I wouldn't put it all on him. I mean, they have been inconsistent and hurts. He played well, actually, reasonably well, and it's probably his best game. This game, 16-25, 264 yards and 2 TDs. He's 13th in the total quarterback rating. He's dropped from what was 4th in 2022 to 12th in 2023, and now 13th so far in 2024. You just had paid the guy $50 million a year to play quarterback for you. He's going in the wrong direction.
And that's a major problem. My question is, bring the energy. You have one of the most inconsistent teams in the NFL, and what's crazy is that your talent is not equaling the production on the field. And he talks about, I got to focus more on coaching. You don't call plays. You don't call the offense. You don't call the defense. You don't call the special teams. Now your players are gathering up your own set of players and giving speeches in the locker room, which is supposed to be your job to do to motivate your players. What is Nick Sirianni doing as a head coach of a football team? He doesn't call plays, doesn't motivate players. The players are already doing that to themselves. In fact, you gave Deshaun Watson arguably his best game this season. He had the second best completion percentage so far this year, his best passer rating, his best yards per attempt. They're able to run the best play action percentage they have all season behind a running game that lost Jerome Ford and doesn't have Nick Chubb. You allowed the receivers to have their best separation so far this season, the lowest tight window percentage that Deshaun Watson had to throw it to, and the most EPA that he had all year. and you're talking about bringing the energy. You won by 4 points when you were 9.5-point favorites entering this game. You were the by far better team, better offensive line, better running back, better weapons. You could argue better defense you should have, but you don't. Your defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, is not living up to his job. Offensive coordinator, not living up to his job. Kellen Moore just isn't the guy. Jalen Hurts regressed. He started the game off 0-5. 0-5. That's an issue. So, yeah, no, I got a problem with it because why? It's gotten so bad. Yeah, you flipped off Chiefs fans in the Super Bowl. You called them out after you beat them in the regular season the following year. And now you're calling out your own fans, calling for your job because what? You have such high expectations because of the level of talent that your GM put in front of you and you can't succeed when it comes on the field. You barely beat the Jacksonville Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence playing who has regressed so far from being the number 1 overall pick and this generational talent. You have a $52 million quarterback. By the way, you barely beat the Jaguars by 5 points. I mean, I was looking at the Browns. Excuse me. The Browns barely beat the Jaguars by 5 points, and you only beat them by 4. By 4. This is the worst team in the NFL. Like, they have I find it crazy. I forgot what exactly the number was, but it was like the first down percentage that Deshaun Watson gets. It may be in NFL history. Out of like 566 qualified quarterbacks, first down percentage, Deshaun Watson is dead last. Out of 566 quarterbacks, he's dead last. You allowed a Cleveland Browns team that is garbage to keep this game close. 9.5-point favorites? And you're talking about bringing the energy? This team is so down on its morale. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got all your players. Here's the thing. Your players were healthy in this game, too. It wasn't with A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Devante Smith all injured, Lane Johnson injured, defense. Y'all were healthy.
Yeah. Well,
9.5-point favorites.
They did win the game, right? And they have a winning record. They are number 1.
That
they're
feels
number
like
2.
a loss.
They're number 2 in their division. They haven't played the Commanders yet. We'll see how that goes.
They're going to get rocked.
Yeah. Well,
they're going to get rocked.
I think maybe this is something that will bring the team together. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts did bounce back. He went 0-5 to start the game off. Offense couldn't do anything. But he did wind up
with his best game of the year at the end, 16-25.
Yes, against arguably the worst team in the NFL with the worst quarterback in the NFL.
Well,
you gave Deshaun Watson, who's been the worst quarterback in the National Football League, his best game. That's an issue.
Yeah.
With the amount of talent you have, the talent disparity between you and the Browns is so large. You had, I think, the second highest point spread so far this season, and you didn't cover. I think the other one was the San Francisco 49ers, who had a 10.5-point spread over the New England Patriots and did cover. That's why I said on Friday, it's too many points for a team that I don't trust. Mm-hmm. Like, the Cleveland Browns are not a good football team. But the Eagles, you can't get a grasp on them. Mm-hmm. Like, do I pick them over the Dallas Cowboys? I have no idea.
But both teams are terrible right now.
I know.
Well, maybe not. I can't say the Eagles are terrible because they have a winning record. The Cowboys, on the other hand, wow. The way they're playing at home, it's really, I'm very surprised.
And this was at home. We got to remember. This was at home, too, for the Eagles.
Yeah, well, they were calling Fire Nick.
I would completely agree.
Yeah.
You're calling out your own fans. Like that. That's the big thing. Your fans are calling for your job, and you're walking up to them saying, "What? What is that?" No, you barely beat the worst team in the NFL. They have a right to be calling for your job.
Well,
they're fans.
They did win.
They did. Yeah. I agree, but also
I haven't given up totally on the Eagles yet. They still have a lot of talent.
I can't either. I have them winning the division.
Last year, the last couple of years, they've started the year by winning 10 or 11 games in a row, right?
0 points in the
Maybe
first
it's going to be the opposite this year. They're rough at the beginning and they're fantastic at the end. We'll have to wait and see. It's too early to tell.
They have 0 points in the first quarter. 0.
They wound up with 20, and that was enough to win the game.
Because they're playing the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah, well.
Beating the Browns
on any given Sunday,
great.
On any given Sunday, any team in the NFL can beat any other team in the NFL. It happens.
Yeah,
it happens.
The Raiders beat the Ravens. Now look how good
look
the
at
Ravens
that. The Raiders beat the Ravens. Right. Yeah. That was totally unexpected.
Yeah. Patriots beat the Bengals.
Yeah, that was unexpected. There's been every week. Look at our records. How many games we miss?
Yeah.
When we pick these games, there's a lot of parity in the NFL nowadays.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get a grasp. But
I have one thing I want to ask you before we go.
Sure.
Okay, and you brought it up, and it was intriguing to me. Hassan Reddick.
Yeah.
You think he's headed to Detroit?
I do.
And what do you think it's going to be, draft choices or a player? Because the Jets, they want players right now. Who might they get?
You can't get anybody good. You can't get a top-tier receiver. You can't get a top offensive lineman or defensive player. You're probably going to get a third-round, fourth-round pick for him.
Yeah.
You're not, and I would say maybe that's even too high. You may be able to get Hassan Reddick for like a 6th and a 7th because he's not showing up. He wants a long-term deal. That's his big thing. He wants a long-term deal. He wants security.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, why not? You lost Aiden Hutchinson, who this season has been the best pass rusher.
I would think he'd be happy to go to Detroit. They look like a Super Bowl contender in a big way now with the way they've been playing.
I mean, the last time we saw Hassan Reddick, who was obviously on the Eagles, he had 11 sacks. He had 4 seasons, a combined sack total of 50.5. He averaged 13 sacks a game per 17 games. Wouldn't the Lions like to have him after losing Aiden Hutchinson? Yeah. I would love that. Just for posterity, we didn't do it as a topic because the game is just so boring to do. Thursday Night Football, Broncos versus the Saints. This is a Sean Payton revenge game. Who do you have winning this game? The point spread, it's at Saints, by the way, so he's returning back to his roots. The Denver Broncos are favored by 2.5 points on the road at Saints with Spencer Rattler out there with a bunch of injuries. Who you got in this game?
I have got the Broncos with Bo Nix playing quarterback and a defense that's been very good so far this year and a coach who I'm quite impressed with now, Sean Payton.
I'm agreeing.
And I think they'll beat the point spread. I think the score is going to be 24-17 Broncos.
I'm going Denver wins too. I think it's a field goal game though because Spencer Rattler actually did a pretty decent job late.
He had 2 interceptions.
I know, but here's the big thing though. The Bucs side to just rub it in their face. But you know
what happened to Derek Carr? What are the injuries?
Oblique injury. He's gonna be out for I think a pretty decent long while. I got Denver winning. Let's go with 21-17. 21-17.
Well, that's not a field goal.
But it's. Well, sorry, no, I'm not gonna say 18. I said it's gonna be close. Did I say a field goal?
Yeah, you just said a field goal. So 20-17.
No, 20-17. Fair enough. But yeah, that does wrap up today's show. We thank you so much for the support as always. Thank you for the constant support. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, my name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We are the hosts of the Harvey Hour. Catch us Friday. We're gonna make our Week 7 picks. This year's flying by already. Records improved. We did a 12-2 record. This past week. We did very good on the win-loss. Point spread 11-3. You went 9-5. But still, though, you're beating me by one on the point spread and blowing me away. Or you beat me by one on the win-loss, blowing me away in the point spread this year. 3-2 record for the Harvey hot hand, thanks to the Jets not being able to close it out late. But yeah, for this episode of the Harvey Hour, my name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We have been the hosts of the Harvey Hour. Friday, catch us here on YouTube, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you then.
Good night, Grandpa.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift